Well, hey, garden friends, it's Destry. Welcome back to my Oregon yard. It's kind of a chilly October afternoon as I'm filming this, but today's task is going to be to pull some stuff out of my garden beds. You guys, some of these garden beds, they're done. They're so done, they're beyond done. So some of my zucchini, my squash, my pumpkins, my tomatoes, mostly veggie stuff is what I'm going to be pulling out tonight, but also some flowers that are just spent. I'm just going to be sort of tidying up and getting ready for my next big planting, which is going to be my flower bulbs. So I am going to be planting a bunch of tulips for the spring season. I actually did this last year as well, where pretty much all of my raised garden beds that I had filled with tulip bulbs, or at least partially filled with tulip bulbs. I went ahead and sold those on the flower stand, and they sold really, really well. I think that in the spring, we're all just craving that color. We're craving fresh flowers. And so I want to plant as many tulip bulbs as I can this season so that I can be selling those on the flower stand in the spring. So what I did last season is I actually saved all of the tulip and daffodil bulbs that I had grown for cut flowers. When I pulled them out, I saved the bulbs and I just kept them in these kind of little raised garden bed things. I'll show them to you in a minute. And I have basically like over summered them. So I watered them occasionally, not that often, but they were basically in their dormant phase all summer. And so now my plan is to clear out some of my garden beds of some of my summer annuals and vegetables and to make room to replant some of these tulip bulbs from last season. Now, I also, of course, went to Costco and got some fresh tulips because the one thing about tulips is you don't know for sure if they're going to rebloom for you, or at least I don't know. There are certain varieties that are better at reblooming, but to be honest, I don't remember what I planted. I did, I think, get most of my bulbs from Costco. I also got some from Longfield Gardens last year, and I bought some new Longfield Gardens bulbs this year. So be sure to stick around for that video. I haven't received them all, but I'm going to have some really beautiful bulbs coming. So I definitely will be doing a video sharing all of those with you. But today I need to pull out some of this old stuff and start to make room for the replanting and the fresh bulbs that I'm going to be planting this fall. So as I'm looking at this bed, I've got lots of things to pull out. So I'm just going to flip the camera around and get to it. My garden's looking pretty tired right now. I did a video about that recently. I'm a little tired, but I still have lots of things blooming, but I think it's time to get some of this out of here. And then I'll show you where I stored the bulbs over the summer and how I'm planning to, get those dumped into the garden beds and get them planted up. I kind of have an idea of how that's going to happen. I just don't know how much I'm going to be able to get done tonight to make that happen. So I have one garden bed in particular I'd like to get planted up tonight, but again, I'm kind of racing against the clock. It's after work. It's going to rain the next couple days, so I'm kind of racing against that as well. So we'll just have to see how much I can get done tonight. So I'm just going to get in here and harvest what I can. Now, the other thing I'm dealing with is a terrible weeds in this bed. So actually what would be a better idea is if I did like a solarization process where I put some plastic on this and tried to really kill a lot of these weeds. It just depends on how much time I have. But these are the bulbs, excuse me, that I would like to get planted. And this is how I store them over the winter or over the summer. They're in dirt, but again, they've been pretty dry most of the summer. Now, I did pull them out, but I let all the greens dry onto the bulbs. So if you start digging around in here, I have tulip bulbs and some daffodil bulbs. Now, I'm hoping I can try to figure out the difference. I think daffodil bulbs are traditionally a little bit different shape and bigger than tulip bulbs. But of course, when I dug them all up and put them in these containers, I did not label them. I'm kicking myself that I didn't actually put a sticker on these or something so that I would know what is what. But I've got, let's see, 6 of them. The containers themselves, again, I don't love them. I think they could probably go, but they worked really well for this application. So my plan is to pull out, eventually both of those beds and plant bulbs. And then this bed here has zinnias in it, which you can see towards the bottom, they just look really terrible. But on the top, they are still producing and I'm still getting some blooms. So I'm going to leave those for now. And then I have my heirloom mums here, which are just, getting ready to bloom. So that's really exciting. But they're competing for room here. They're competing for light with these zinnias. So I've been trying to keep them a little shorter here by the new plants. Um, but anyway, eventually this whole bed will also be bulbs. So that's my plan. I did think about planting garlic again this year. I've grown garlic the last 2 years, and it's really an easy and fun, like, winter crop to grow. So I might devote a little bit of room to garlic. It just depends on, I think I'm going to need a lot of garden beds for all these bulbs, but I am going to plant them really, really close. So who knows? Maybe I could do this in 1 or 2 garden beds. And then I also have these couple pots of bulbs here. And these are really like few and far between. Like, I think this one only had like 1 or 2 that bloomed. Same with this one. These 2 little black kind of, urn shaped ones, they're just plastic. But I know both of those are daffodils. And they did bloom last year, but I could tell they were really struggling and they flopped over, and there's just not enough soil for how many bulbs are in there. So I know I could plant those, out in the landscape. Thinking about, if I'm sure it's a daffodil bulb, to just plant them in the landscape, and then, do this experiment basically with these tulip bulbs to see if I can get them to rebloom. The ones that do rebloom, I'll keep. And if they don't rebloom this next year, I'll probably will just get rid of them. So I do have a little bit of fruit here still on some of these vines, but you can see this one has some damage. Again, I've been kind of leaving these flowers for the pollinators too, because you got to think about our pollinators as well. But I think it's just time to, this one, again, the skin is really hard. It's just one of those late season zucchinis. You can see this one's actually split. So yeah, these would be great if you had animals or chickens or anything. We used to have chickens, but we don't anymore. But unfortunately, I'm probably gonna just put both of these in the yard debris. Now this one I am gonna be keeping, and I have been waiting to harvest it. It's so huge. I'll have to drop a picture, you guys. Apparently, some people will take like potato peelers or whatever and carve on these and make them into like jack-o'-lanterns, but they're just giant zucchini, but they do art with them. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. That sounds like a lot of fun, but I probably will just put that on the flower stand. I know there's a woman that comes by that has animals. Um, so I'll probably put that one out for her, but I thought about doing some carving on it. So stay tuned. Maybe I'll get to that. Now, the weeds that are in my beds, you guys, tell me if you've ever struggled with this. I think it's called oxalis, or at least that's what I think it's called. I'm sure there's a more common name. I haven't done a lot of research. I just know it's very happy in my garden. Very, very happy. And it likes to act like a ground cover. And so it's like you either fight it or you just leave it as a ground cover. But if you leave it as a ground cover, then this is what happens. It just jumps and it goes. And now it's all in my garden bed. So yeah, I'm going to have to deal with that at some point. But I guess I'm going to have to start tonight. So I'm also going to be taking after this tomato. Again, I've noticed that there's some other critters coming in here and eating some of the tomatoes, I think. I think it's the squirrels. I'm not sure, but it's time to get this out of here. Also, this got this giant cage on it, which doesn't need to be here. So that will give room, the slow shift can kind of have that space. I'll probably leave that up for now. But again, I think I'm going to either just cut back really hard the spatula button or just pull it out. All right, so I'm looking at my plants, and this one is really being taken over by powdery mildew. So I'm definitely getting rid of that one. But I wanted to show you of my experiment of trying to grow my zucchini vertically. This is how it's looking right now. And I have really liked it. What happens is the fruit hangs down like that. I'll try to get around to the other side too. And so I've had some success with growing them that way. You can see this one didn't get trained as well. It should have been lifted up a second time before it got too, like the stem got too woody. So that's one thing that I've definitely learned about this. And like here's compared to one that's not staked at all, you know, it's going to grow on the ground. It's going to produce fruit on the ground or even in the garden bed rather than up vertically. So I've really liked doing it this way. I think that I need to get better at it. That's the one I'm definitely taking out. This one has still some fruit on it. It just has one zucchini on it, I should say. So here's the one little nice zucchini here that I'm going to harvest. And then like this, yeah, it looks pretty good. Some of this white spotting isn't actually the mildew as much. Most of it is, but sometimes they can just kind of have like a naturally lighter area of the leaf too. But you can also tell the ones that start to get overcome with it. So anyway, I'm going to work on the back of the bed though. I'm going to try to get all these weeds out of here. Even if I can get that much done tonight, it would be really good. All right, well, here's a quick progress shot. And I left this one crazy one just because there's a couple still developing. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave this one. I groomed a bunch of leaves. I should take that flower off. I just thought I could get that zucchini maybe a little bit bigger. But you can see the weed situation is really, really bad. So I am tired. I have hurt my back again. So I'm going to be done with this for now. But I'm glad I got this much done. I'm grateful I was able to get something done to make some progress towards getting those bulbs in the ground. And then I did get the tomato out of here. So that's always nice because stuff gets so sludgy and gross. I think the flowers are just going to have to be here for now. I don't know, maybe I'll harvest off them again and then I'll feel good about them again. But some of it's a little dead. That piece needs to go. But anyway, yes, I am tired. That was a lot. That was a lot of work on the back for sure. But I'm glad I got it done. I'm glad I got those the tomato cages out of there that I did and just started clearing room. You know, sometimes I have to clear the room and then that lets my imagination like start to go and think and dream, and I have to like, you know, let go of the old so I can see the new. So I hurt my back since the last time I've been out here, but I'm going to go ahead. There's still a lot of weeds in this bed, but I want to go ahead and tip over one of these containers and start to look at these bulbs. I'm a little concerned I'm not going to be able to tell the difference between the tulips and daffodil bulbs. So what I might do is just do a little, you know, grab a couple from each one and kind of look at them. This bed's not ideal. I need to get in here and do more weeding, but instead of weeding everything and then doing the bulbs, I think what I'm going to do is just do a long trench, dig that out, then weed what I can when I put the soil back, and then kind of do it that way. I am going to move the drip tape aside before I do that. And then, yeah, I'm just going to kind of look at the different bulbs and see if I can start to identify the difference. So I feel like in these two beds, the bulbs are bigger. And I'm also looking at the dead foliage here. And I can tell that this is like really linear. I'll kind of try to show you the difference here. And so I'm starting to think that one way I could potentially tell is like this foliage looks a lot different than this. Um, so I believe these are all of the daffodils and these are tulips. You can tell that the leaves are different on the tulips. They're just a different shape and stuff. So I'm pretty sure that's what's what. Um, so that means, and I did keep, each trough does have the same kind of bulb, whether it be tulips or daffodils. If I remember, I only had, I think, that one that was all daffodils, and then most of these are tulips. So what I might do is just start with one that I know is all tulips and get that planted up first. Right, so this one I know is all tulips. So I'm going to go ahead and start digging the trench here. And I got to get this drip tape out of here. But this little rake's working pretty good. Now I'm running the risk of breaking it because it's not really made for this, but it's pretty sturdy. So it's almost making a little trough for me without having to get a bigger shovel out. And I'm all about like lightweight tools, especially at my age. So I like it. I'm into it. It's working. It's pulling up some weeds too. And again, when I did this, you guys, this was just a way to hold these bulbs. So I can plant these bulbs a lot closer together than how I have them in here. Let me show you a close-up really quick and show you what I'm working with here. So again, here's kind of what I'm looking at. Those are what I think is all the daffodils. These are all the tulips. But this bed, there's a lot more dirt here than there are bulbs. So I could probably just sift through this, or I can just dump the whole thing. It depends on if I need the soil for something else or if I want to try to keep the soil. I really don't care right now. So I think I'm just going to dump it all into the bed and then just kind of place the bulbs. And I probably will have room, I'm thinking, for at least 2 of these in one row. We'll see. So I think honestly it was a little easier. It would have been easier to not dump so much of the soil in here and just sift through. Maybe use my little hand rake or something and kind of sift through, or just lift the tulips or daffodils individually, because I don't know, dumping it was kind of just, I don't know. I think I'd rather just place them. So I'm just going through now though and kind of making sure the bulbs are turned, pointed side up. I'm doing a little bit of spacing, but I'm not being like super careful about that. But I'm just kind of shoving them in, and then I'll rake over this surface and make sure that they go a little deeper than this too. But the bulbs are small, so I'm not really sure. They may go ahead and sprout, or they may just I don't know, put up greens and nothing else. I think I'm just gonna do a little raking, careful raking on top, and lift the bulbs. And I'd be better to sit down and do this, but because I don't think maybe there's as many as I think, but maybe not. These ones, some of these are a little deeper. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and cover all these up. This is the second row that I've done of the tulips, and probably as far as I'll get tonight. But I wanted to just film the process for you and kind of show you in progress thoughts here on how I'm replanting some tulips from last year, and how I'm using my raised garden beds and a really small, pretty small garden, backyard garden to, try to grow cut flowers. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to see how this does. Oh, I just saw another bulb on the ground. I'm excited to see how this does over the winter.
Thanks so much for hanging out with me in the garden today, guys. I will keep you updated on this project. See you next time.